Chapter 23. The Fever. He lay there limp, overcome by the fever, and Caron worriedly tried to get Gregory to drink his water, but Gregory was passed out. And Caron lifted Gregory and reclined against his back, and he did so to try to avoid bending the wings. And he sat him in the empty bath, and then he started to pound cold water. The cold helped awaken Gregory from his stupor, and he drank his water. And then he shed all of his scales and horns into the bath, and he waited a bit longer for his temperature to drop before retracting his wings. Caron said, "I'm going to change the bed sheets, and I will be right back in a second." Gregory did not respond to this statement, and he simply closed his eyes to faint again. And Caron ran to the bedroom, and he set about putting in clean bed sheets. And when he returned to see Gregory, Caron was shocked to see him with his head underwater. And Caron pulled Gregory out of the bath, and he brought him to his side to get him to spit the water that he had swallowed. And Gregory was consumed by a coughing fit, and Caron started to panic when he saw blood on the hands that Gregory had used to cover his mouth. Caron started crying out at this point, but he soldiered on, and he felt that if he could just get Gregory back in bed and rested, the problem would solve by itself. And he placed Gregory in the bed gently, and Gregory was trembling all over until the shattering in his teeth. He said, "I'm so cold, so cold." Caron lay down beside Gregory, and he thought that with his bare flesh he could regulate Gregory's body temperature. And for 1 hour it fluctuated from cold as ice to scorching fire. And Caron was exhausted, but he persevered, and whenever Gregory seemed half awake, Caron would get him to drink some water. And without seeming to desire to do so, Caron started to doze off, and as he did, he thought he saw a man with long black hair. And as the man drew near, Caron recognized the ash-pink eyes of the Arch Magus Helmer. Caron did not know if it was real or hallucination, and before he could figure it out, he was fast asleep. And when the morning came, Gregory was sleeping peacefully, almost as if the fever from the night before had never happened. And the only confirmation that it was real was the blood on the floor. After that incident, Gregory did not turn into a dragon again, and his engagement with Caron became less frequent, and at the end of them, Gregory had the look of a man who was unsatisfied. And this greatly grieved Caron, and after 2 months of seeing Gregory slowly drift away, Caron decided to seek professional help. And he decided to consult Dr. Sunshine, and one was starting to get filled with travelers and merchants and bored tourists. And he passed by a nearby newspaper stand on the way to the Sacred Mass Guild, and the paper was announcing attorney. The island of Martisor had moved nearer to Allan, and Caron could see it just over the horizon. And the islanders had a creepy vibe about them, and those creeks only appeared at night. And during those nights, it was common to find around them travelers with love bites on their necks. And since nobody died or got sick, these eccentric vampiric visitors were tolerated. Inside the guild, there was much hustle and bustle, and Pierre gestured to Caron to come closer, and he said, smiling, "Caron, I have your bonus." "We get bonuses now?" asked Caron, confused. "Better late than never," said Pierre, handing Caron a bag of coin. And Gregory's cut is also in there as well. And Caron did not bother to count the coins, and any bonus was a welcome boon. And he had become dependent on the guild for spending money, and the mine had run dry, and most of the year's profit had gone to rehoming the miners and their families, and they were now forced to tighten their belts to keep the savings from the greasing. And of the liquid money, they only had enough to pay for the house, food, medicine, and the servants Lysandra and Regis. Baron had returned to his day job as a minister of economics, and it was a boring job, so boring that it made Bron fantasize jumping off a cliff. And during the 2 days that Caron had been away with Gregory, a miracle had happened. Alisa was with child, and Caron was happy to hear the news, but he was a little melancholic. And Caron thought of this and many other things, and in the end he decided to focus on the thing that gave his life meaning, Gregory. And Caron asked Pierre, "And have you seen Sunshine? I want to talk to him about Gregory." "He comes and goes ever since he started his practice, and he visited today to get a drink," explained Pierre. "And when he got here today, he seemed as purple as a grape, and he spent half an hour complaining about Citrin, his mother, and Gregory was just sitting there with a dogged look, as Sunshine ruined the beautiful, perfect image that Gregory had of his mother." "Nobody's perfect," said Caron. "And is Sunshine still here?" "No," said Pierre. "Sunshine said he had to finish some work in the office." And Caron looked a bit disappointed after hearing this, and Pierre, seeing Caron's disappointed look, said, Gregory's classes don't start till late afternoon, and why don't you go see him? I think he's in the basement. And Pierre trembled when he saw the look in Caron's eyes, and Caron's mouth smiled politely when he responded to Pierre, but his eyes seemed extremely angry. And softly Caron said, Ah, is that so? Thank you for telling me. A week ago, Gregory had told Caron that he was going to be teaching morning classes, and on his way down to the basement, Caron kept pondering why Gregory had lied to him. And he wouldn't have lied to him without a good reason, and Caron's heart started beating, and he circled through all the recent conversations he had with Gregory, and in the center of them all was the name Allan. Caron was being overpowered by a strong emotion he had never felt before, and a cold sweat fell down his spine, and he started to hyperventilate. And Caron was so focused on this thought that he did not make a big deal about the true dragon inside the cave. And Caron gave the dragon a cursory glance as if it was just a piece of furniture in the room. And that dragon was Lotte, and she was relaxing in her true form, and beside her was Marina gossiping with her. And Lotte in her true splendor was twice as big, and unlike Gregory, she looked like a proper dragon, with the elongated snout, the long neck, the spines, the large horns, a silky green game, copper scales, and amethyst-colored eyes. And her limbs were long and slender, and her natural posture was like that of a cat. And Lotte had many cat-like mannerisms, right down to the way she liked to loaf. So yeah, like the dragon was loafing. And her tail illustrated her level of excitement, and her true length, not counting the tail, was almost 6 meters, and her tail was 6 meters as well, and her wings were situated lower, closer to the start of the tail, and they resembled the pectoral fins of a flying fish. And the end of her tail was also fish-like, and it reminded Caron of the traditional depiction of a mermaid's tail. After giving a curious glance to the dragon, Caron turned his gaze to look for Gregory, and in his state of agitation he found Gregory sitting right next to Allan. And Allan had his arm around Gregory, and with a hand he was stroking Gregory's shoulder as if to comfort him, and Gregory had his eyes fixated on the floor as if he was waiting for something. And Lotte and Marina stopped the conversation when they saw Caron's face twisted in anger, and the two started to hold in their laughter, and they were eager to see Caron's stupid feet. And Gregory felt Allan's hand stiffen, and he looked out to see Allan's amused smile, and Gregory looked stoically at Caron, who was standing before him with the face of an angry child. He opened his mouth and he pointed at Allan. I knew it. You are leaving me for Allan. Well, I'm not going to let you. If you leave me, I'll kill myself, and then I'm going to kill you, Gregory. Don't you have to kill Gregory first? Said Allan, laughing. You know what I meant, you incubus, said Caron, shaking his fist at Allan. And Caron then threw himself at the floor, and he held on to the folds of Gregory's dress. And on that day, Gregory had been in a lady type of mood, and he was wearing a lavender pastel dress. And Caron kissed the edge of the dress before continuing. I'm sorry, Mr. Needy. I didn't mean to get so violent. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me. Please, please don't leave me. I'm begging you, nay, I'm praying to you. I'm sorry I can be as original, as strong as Allan, but every time you mention his name after we finish, it kills me. I am sick of Allan. Caron raised himself a little, and he wrapped his arms around Gregory's waist, and Allan said, laughing, Damn, Gregory, and I thought I was a sadist, and let's say that hypothetically I was taking Gregory. What would you do, I wonder? And Gregory started petting Caron's head soothingly and almost apologetically, and this did not comfort Caron, rather it caused him to cry. And after sobbing for 10 minutes, Caron continued, It's fine, I don't mind. It doesn't matter how hard I try, I would always be a little ogre, and I do not know why it is so hard for me to build up muscle strength. I am trying, Gregory. I know that I'm not as big or as strong as Allan, and I am inexperienced, and I am terrible at learning new tricks. And I will do anything for you, Gregory, and please, I do not want you to leave me. And if you're still attracted to Allan, then I accept it, as long as you can spare a few minutes for poor Caron. Allan started laughing while holding his side, and his mirth was echoed by Marina and Lotte, who had been holding in their shoulders till they heard everything that Caron had to say. And Allan then said, You heard that, Gregory. We no longer need to hide our love. And Gregory took Caron's face in his hand to force him to make eye contact, and smiling, Gregory said benevolently, Caron, I'm always going to love Allan, and he's always going to be a part of my life, whether you like it or not. I hate it, said Caron, biting his lower lip, and he could not bear to make eye contact with Gregory. Sweet Caron, just because I love Allan doesn't mean I love you any less. I still have feelings for him, continued Gregory, and he added in a playful tone, yes, I am still very much attracted to Allan. He was always very adept at wearing me down, but mating is not enough to sustain a relationship, and we were better as friends than as a mating pair. And what are you saying? Asked Caron, confused. He means that you can relax and not fucking your boyfriend so you can stop crying, you stupid brat, said Allan, handing Caron a tissue. And he added, Gregory did not want to worry you, but now that you're here, you might as well find out the truth. And Gregory made Caron get up from the floor, and he started to kiss him to soothe him. And when Caron felt better, Gregory opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. And Allan sighed, and then he started to explain. And remember a couple of months ago that Gregory overheated, and this alarmed him a lot, and not just because of the fainting fit, and it was the weird soft stool that made him worry the most, and Gregory's father had overdeveloped poison glands that made him chronically ill. And Gregory was worried that this could be the early symptoms of that problem, so he went to Sunshine to get a health check. My mother was my original physician, and she wrote many manuals telling me what to expect as I develop, but none of them mentioned this problem of mine, said Gregory. And if mother doesn't have the answers I seek, then I have to look elsewhere. So then Gregory asked Sunshine to help him with his overheating problem, and Gregory is most of the time perfectly healthy, but then while he was in school, he got a coughing fit, which he did not tell you about, and he was also concerned about his fluctuations in body temperature, and that are more common in juvenile dragons, explained Allan. You describe your mother Citrin as a brood mother, and even by draconic standards, having 700-something brats is a hell of a lot. And most of the lady dragons cap out around 75 or 79, with 170 being a rare exception. And brood mother types tends to be larger than their male counterparts, but Citrin was the same height as Sunshine, and since you're almost a dragon, you should have stabilized between the ages of 10 and 20. And you should not be overheating at the age of 20. And clearly there's something abnormal about you, said Lotte. And Gregory turned his face away from Lotte, and Caron took Gregory's hands, and then he squeezed him to show his support. And Lotte, noticing the problem, said, don't make a big deal about it. Dragon King is all about viability, and I cannot even fly with my wings, and I am more of a fish type of dragon, so I require a different care from an air-dwelling dragon like yourself. And Sunshine is a specialist, an uncommon dragon, so whatever is his prognosis, it's important that Caron hears it as well. And Sunshine entered the cave with his doctor's attire, and he wore plain white clothing with a long overcoat embroidered with golden pattern, and his hands without gloves showed that he painted his nails gold. And upon closer inspection, Caron noticed that Sunshine was wearing golden eyeliner over his eyes. And since Caron was entering a jealousy phase, he instinctively grabbed his arm around Gregory's waist, and Sunshine laughed when he saw this, and showcasing his perfect white teeth. And with a soothing, silky voice, Sunshine said to Gregory, you can relax, you do not have overdeveloped poison glands or any other degenerative chronic conditions. And if you continue to take care of yourself, you're going to live a long life. Gregory and Allan both breathed in a sigh of relief, and the sigh of relief was echoed by Marina. And Lotte seemed pretty chill about everything, and she too had started her practice as well, and she was pulling teeth left and right, and she was enjoying every minute of it. And while Gregory ate hair, Lotte was a bit of a tooth fairy. Why does Gregory have poison glands? Asked Caron. He is male. Male dragons typically are born with poison glands, and Gregory is also a descendant of Culebra. All of Culebra's male descendants have poison glands with higher toxicity than the average male dragon, explained Sunshine. And he added, I did a biopsy, and this exam showed that the poison gland has successfully atrophied. And Mother's experimental treatment did what it was supposed to, so you no longer need to worry about your gland's toxicity. What's a biopsy? Asked Caron. I did a small puncture wound on Gregory's neck to extract a tissue sample of the gland, explained Sunshine. And he placed his hand around his own neck to illustrate the location of the gland. I analyzed it and then I came up with my diagnosis. So like, the dragons have their poison gland where the humans have their thyroids. Sunshine added, as for your thyroid, it is a bit swell and you need to eat more salty foods to speed up recovery. And I recommend you cook with sea salt from now on. What about the overheating? Asked Gregory. It is psychosomatic, explained Sunshine, and when you grow your scales, you normally do so in order to fight. And when dragons enter a fighting stand, the flow of the battle usually takes care of the excess heat in the form of strikes, blows, and sweat. And the fight is also quenched when you utilize magic. And you are trying to use a form that you have conditioned yourself to only use when you're in a pinch. I see, said Gregory, so there isn't a cure-all to this problem. I mentioned this problem to Alec, and he told me that when you were wee small, you did not have an overheating problem. At random times, your scales would grow and then fall off a few hours later, and your transformation would scare the other children, so Leanne encouraged you to repress this side of you, to only show your scales if you were in trouble or if somebody tried to hurt you. And this repression might have something to do with your overheating problem, and the main reason why you need to drink water after transforming is that the scales dehydrate you, but they do not give you a fever, explained Sonja, and this water also helps calm your nerves, so it naturally gets rid of your overheating problem. So how do we treat this issue? Asked Gregory. Simple. You must learn to calm yourself down in that form, and try taking in deep breaths while counting to 10, and the mere act of counting will keep your emotions under control. Try to function when you're doing an activity that occupies your mind, and that it creates a calming effect over your emotions, explained Sunshine. And about the other thing, asked Gregory, I have an example of that other thing you mentioned, so I can't say for certain, and I have my own theories, but I do not want to bother you with it. And if you happen to recreate the scenario that triggers the diffusions, do make certain to send me a sample, and preferably inside a beaker or a test tube, said Sunshine. On the side note, your heart scale is growing beautifully, which reminds me. Doctor, homework is more salty food and phone change practice, said Caron, interrupting. And Allan started chuckling with seeing that irritated look on Caron's face, and Allan got a good look at Dr. Sunshine, and there was an ambiguity about him, and his body was a perfect blend of masculine and feminine attributes. And Sunshine had an air and unique aura to him, as warm and gentle as the sun, and there was also a passion hidden behind his piercing, focused gaze. Hey, good doctor, are you busy later tonight? Asked Allan, smiling. Forget it, said Sunshine, sighing with frustration. Give me a chance, said Allan, going into flirtation mode. I totally dig dragons, and Lotte already rejected me, so that leaves you, little Sunshine, and I bet you have some mad doctor skills with those surgical gloves. Please, doctor, I am dying. Please help me. That's the end of that chapter. Bye, God bless.